So my name is David Lee. I founded the first makerspace in China in 2010. And ever since, we have been starting to conducting research in the maker movement and what they can mean for the future. What is maker, this kind of open innovation, this kind of sharing community, how they can help, how they can change, where they can go. And coming back is we are locking in a very strange, interesting time to talk about innovation out of the makerspace, innovation from a makerspace. I'm going to talk about the narrative, the perception of innovations, and where they are going, and what they happen, and how the experience in China can inform the maker movement, and how makers can start to leverage China to be a platform to change. So really think about when we talk about innovation and innovator, in the past few decades, we think about Silicon Valley. This place is full of magics, full of interesting company. Kids in the garage who starting company, changing the world. Kids starting the company, grow large, become billionaire, become billion-dollar company. We get Google, we get Facebook. And Silicon Valley is starting to try to create mythologies, trying to create its own language, or in today's world, they try to create their own universe. So you get Steve Jobs tell you, think different. You get Mark Zuckerberg, move fast and break things. If you are not breaking things, you are not going fast enough. And we create a persona out of Silicon Valley like they are Hollywood celebrity, even superhero, Elon Musk, Travis. And this is very exciting narrative. This is pointing to huge individualism, huge, everybody can change the world. Everybody can be the superhero. And I want to believe. But this is one of the things is driving a lot of perception of innovators. You have to move fast, you have to be different, you have to be all this. But in the past year, we're starting to see the problem with this. Started by Facebook screw up everything. So we are holding Mark Zuckerberg in front of the Congress to ask, well, what's going on there with Facebook? Elon Musk, well, it's nice. You can send a Tesla to space. But, well, you cannot produce 300,000 Tesla in time. So what did he do? Work 120 hours a week and go on crying on 60 minutes. And even worse is I don't really know how to innovate, but I can talk. Just think of me as a superhero and give me $800 million for things which never going to work. So this is the latest of Silicon Valley. Now, that kind of narrative, that kind of making things and scale globally narrative was very seductive, but it's not really true. And we're starting to see the evidence from Silicon Valleys of this. At the same time, the emergence of China is starting to give a lot of spotlight and attention. People are looking at China. We produce tons of unicorn. People are running around saying the next AI superpowers. But when people talk about innovation in China, one city in particular is getting most people's attention. It's the city of Shenzhen. This Silicon Valley of hardware innovation hub. I run Shenzhen Open Innovation Lab, and one of the big parts for us is to help people understand what happened in Shenzhen, what makes Shenzhen innovative, and how that implies to the future of maker movements, and future of production, and future of creations. So let me give you a little story about Shenzhen. In 1980s, the Chinese government, well, the communism was not really working, so they want to experiment. They want to experiment with capitalism. But they are worried about the effect, the success of the experiment. So what they do is they come down to the south of China, pick this 15 fishing village, and actually put a physical wall around it. So you actually see the barbed wire. There was actually a physical wall around this city. And basically now say, okay, look, 300,000 people within these cities. Now you can go free, experiment with everything. Experiment with capitalism, experiment with things. And that, if we come to think about this, right now everybody build incubator, accelerator. In 1980, Chinese government built a city-scale accelerator, which is Shenzhen. And this is Shenzhen today. It's a mega city of 18 million people. It produced 90% of the global electronics. It produced 93% of the global mobile phone. The innovation speed is unprecedented. The growth of the city, the wealth of the city. Last year, Shenzhen surpassed Hong Kong in terms of its GDP. And what happened here? You don't see any superhero out of Shenzhen. You don't see any kind of world-changing narrative out of Shenzhen. Shenzhen did not try to change the world by leading. Shenzhen changing the world by changing the structures, changing how the industry works. So, of course, Shenzhen is known for the massive manufacturer base. But on top of this big, huge manufacturer base, Shenzhen realized one thing. The production is easy. Creation is easy. Technology is easy. Finding the right market for the technology is hard. So let's concentrate on how do we find the right market? How do we experiment? How do we test? So this is the street. This is the electronic market of Shenzhen. And it doesn't look like the beautiful all-you-can-eat buffet Silicon Valley office. It actually looks like a street market. And it's what it is. Technology is traded, it's exchanged, it's modified, it's created on the street in a market like this. The real growth of Shenzhen came in around 2002, with Shenzhen starting to make mobile phone. 2002, well, for those of you who you can remember, if you complain about a $1,000 iPhone to be expensive today, how a brick small Nokia phone without a contract was $800 in 2002. It's not affordable to at least 90% of the world. So Shenzhen realized, well, we have all the engineering, manufacturing, production, everything available. Let's go into the market. But well, we are not going to compete with Nokia in Europe, in North America. Let's make phone for those people who cannot afford it. So Shenzhen was big in third, fourth, fifth tier city China, rural China, Southeast Asia, Middle East, Africa, Eastern Europe, Russia. A lot of places starting to take in this, well, I can afford $50 phone. So it become popular. It's starting to scale. But as it grow in scale, it also starting to really go into taking care of the niche need. So in the middle of this is, let me see. Okay. Well, this is a feature phone with 7 speakers, and it sounds like a boombox. It's actually as loud as a boombox. It's creative for people working in the construction site, where you can enjoy some music without putting on a headset, which will bring dangers to yourself. And this is making a lot of different people making a lot of different crazy ideas for a lot of different niche market. An interesting thing happened is this. By 2012, the market segment, Nokia Moto still have a majority of the market, but all of this crazy phone you are looking at, it's all this blue long tail phone. They are 1/4 of the global market with 300 million phones a year. And that changed the entire mobile industry. If you remember 2012, that's when Nokia got acquired by Microsoft and Moto got acquired by Google. And two most major brands disappeared. And it's really unthinkable of how fast that industry could be changed. That giant mobile phone industry could be changed. This is the cover of Forbes. And if you can see here, it says 1 billion customers served. Who can stop this company? Well, 5 years, it's gone. Let's look at the other sector, which is going through even faster transformations. Smartphone, Apple, 10 years. Apple goes from 100% of the market share to, well, this is 2016. It's 12% globally. It's 7% in China. And the Chinese top 5 change all the time. And if you look at, more interesting is the area called other. They are all Chinese. They are all strange, interesting, fun, different kind of mobile phone. And this is interesting, is China did not take over this chart by having something technically better than iPhone. It take over the chart by having fulfill interesting segment. They localize. They take this global resource and localize their market. So Vivo and Oppo, they are mostly in China and Southeast Asia. So how did this happen? How did this all kinds of different brands emerge? And how do they change so fast? They change fast because in Shenzhen, making a technology object is easy. It's not, you don't have to start in from scratch. You can mix and match. Let's say you want to make a smart watch. You don't have to build everything. And most of the time, you can take every one of these, different function, different look, combine them, mix them, match them, and then you can ship your first products. This is probably pretty much 3 weeks. And with that ability, going to the market fast, testing market, validate product, iterate products in very short interval, number by the month. So in this way, you look at, and you have a lot of people be able to do this. And in this way, you share the ideas, you share the design, you share the engineering, you share the cost of everything. This makes Shenzhen becoming this kind of cities of partnership, city of cooperations. So everything in this diagram is, when you think about starting a new hardware company, you want a design department, you want a designer, you want an engineer, you want someone who knows about manufacturers, all of this. But in Shenzhen, each one of these blocks is tens of thousands of companies. You can just grab and partners and start into your new projects. And that thinking starting to turn the ideas of the difficulty about how do I create a new objects to how do I sell them, where do I sell them to? And people realize that's the point, that's the key, starting to reap the benefit in a very interesting way. So this is one of my favorite examples. This is a company called Wiko. It's right now the #2 mobile phone in France. The company started in 2011, and in 5 years, it overtook Apple as #2. And right now, it's shipping about 10 million units, 10 million units a year. And how do you beat Apple and Samsung in France? Not by having a better technical spec, but by being more French than the other two. It's not hard. One is American, one is Korea. And this is starting by 4 French. So, and you see a lot of these examples starting to come in out of Shenzhen. So this is the #1 mobile phone in Africa with 37% market share. Totally targeted their phone for dark skin. So everybody complain about facial recognition doesn't work for dark skin. It works here because that's their only customer. And this is not just large scale. We see a lot of entrepreneurs in Africa who actually starting their own mobile company This is Learn Mobile in Lagos, Nigeria, starting by sellers. They do about 10 to 20,000 units a year, and this is a 3-person operations. So they take the mobile from China, put on their customized software, and work on their niche. And just to illustrate how easy this thing is, we did a video with Wall Street Journal. They make 20 of this Wall Street One mobile phone for $70 each in 3 weeks. So really starting to think about what Shenzhen changed things is how openness, how cooperations do change industry, how it's shifting the entrepreneurship opportunity to not just design and engineering, by figuring out how do I apply, figuring out where the new opportunity is. This is a new company out of Shenzhen. It's the fastest growing company in the past 5 years. It's called Anchor. It's #1 third-party seller on Amazon. It sells 3 things: the charger, the cable, and the battery bank. And they don't own factories. They don't do engineering. They don't own design. They go on Shenzhen, they pick Shenzhen commodity, put their logo on it, and do it on Amazon. So 5 years doing this, how much are they making? They are $1 billion in revenue last year. And this is just some kid realized I can do this. I can put this online. And in Shenzhen, of course, nobody does this alone. There's about another 300 companies just like Anchors in different sizes. And even for small company, this is our good friend Robin. They did a stick to turn your TV into a PC. 5-person, 3 months, make it happen, produce it, put it on e-commerce. They sell about 80,000 units a year at about $130. So do the math, that's $10 million business. And so, I mean, this is the recurrent kind of things we see in Shenzhen. And company like this is a lot of them. We have tons of them. So really to understand what's going on in Shenzhen, it's not this hero narrative. And one of the best analogy we can think of is the sci-fi genre, the cyberpunk. It's describing this future world where you have a few high-tech companies, but on the street, you actually have full of the shop, which also do technology. So if you like movie, it's Blade Runners. And Shenzhen is exactly that street of these futures. But instead of in cyberpunk, the street is always dominated by the big one. The street is toppling the top. So in China, everything can be made into a product. Anything will be useful, will happens. So this is really cute. This is a kid tracking watch. It's a GPS watch. You can track your kids. And a lot of them is also mobile phone with 2 buttons, call daddy and call mommy. But here's another fun use of it. She's using her watch to pay for her snack. And now you can track allowance. So, well, if it's useful, it would happen. So really to rethinking about where we are and how this happened. Why we go from the Silicon Valley model of exclusive to the Shenzhen model of inclusions, of everybody can participate, is in order to innovate, in the past, we need 3 things. We need access to knowledge, we need access to technology, and we need access to productions. But in the past 20 years, all of this, they go from exclusive to very open. If you think about knowledge, today, if you want to learn about, traditionally, I'm originally from Taiwan. I went to the US to study computer science in the 90s. That's because I need access to knowledge. It's the library, it's the university, it's the professors, it's the class I can take. But today, anywhere on earth, if you have an internet connection, you can You can go on Coursera, take the class with Andrew Nate, which is the leading researcher professor in artificial intelligence. The technology is open through open source software, through open source hardware, through the open API, open platform. You want to play around with AI today? You are using the same piece of software US Defense Department is using. And the last part, which is what Shenzhen represented, is the opening up of productions. Now production is no longer exclusive. I don't need to build my own factories. That's this place with the access to productions, access to produce. Production become a service, become open. And so coming back to this is to rethinking about where we are as innovators, where we are as innovations. I think in the past 10 years, people are very excited about maker movement. And with the books like Makers, Chris Anderson, talking about maker movement like creating small Silicon Valley everywhere. Everybody working on a small project will become the next Apple, that kind of trajectory. But making something feel like going to a makerspace is something special. Making a project in a makerspace is like Jobs and Wozniak in a garage. But we don't live in that world anymore. The access to knowledge, to technology, to production is no longer exclusive to a small place called Silicon Valley. It's worldwide, it's everywhere. And even in a rural farm of China.
Meet Wu.
大家好，我叫吴玉露，我是一个农民。
Wu is a simple guy. He didn't go to college, high school, or middle school. He doesn't read books or use the internet. He is just a simple old farmer at a village in China. His appearance and lack of education might fool you, but they shouldn't. Because this simple man is China's Iron Man. Over 20 years, he taught himself how to build actual robots from scratch. This farmer built robots that can carry him around. Robots that can walk and pour water. Robots that can write Chinese. And 100 other robots that do 100 other things.
你好，
All of this he built from really basic objects like ping pong balls and without using the internet.
我帮他上网呢。
Now he sells the robots and teaches students how to build them at a university. This simple farmer is why we shouldn't judge books by their cover.
带着我们呢，See you tomorrow.
So that's where we are. Wherever you stand, any point in the world, you actually have an equal opportunity to invent. You are accessing to the same global resource. So we're rethinking about this is what the maker movement means with all the open source hardware, open projects to help you to get started. What Shenzhen means with all this open component, open system to help you to produce is to think about now we are at the opportunity. It's not invent locally and going global. It's taking the global resource and try to solve a local problem. And with that understanding, we set up the Shenzhen Open Innovation Lab in 2015. We are looking around the world to see what entrepreneur ecosystem is best suited to work with Shenzhen. We started with the US. The US startup is all talking about valuation and equity. Nobody wants to produce things. So if you see the recent news, just about every single one of them is shutting down. Airwave, the drone company, just shut down. Another AI company just shut down. So then we switch our focus to Europe. European company startup is good. They want to produce, but they take forever. Yeah, we have a team we work with. In fourth year, they are still prototyping. And their competitor is already $1 billion company. But interestingly, where we found our best entrepreneur is in Africa. So this is Desamon. He does biodigesters, turn farming waste into fertilizer and gas. came to China, spent 2 weeks taking his entire idea, taking his project from ideas all the way to producible prototype, and take it home, starting the business. He's now selling. This is a quick project done by 3 students in Ethiopia. The farmers, they have a lot of, same here, they have a lot of coffee farm. There's not enough experts to look at what's going on in the farm. They want a way to collect that data. So they figure out we'll take pictures of all the leaves, and we will train an AI to identify problem. But instead of trying to train an AI to replace the expert, they train the AI to recognize one thing only, to recognize normal. So they collect all these pictures. They use AI to filter out what they are sure to be normal and just send the rest to experts. Cut down the experts' loading, and then in this way, they actually get a lot more area covered by the expertise. This is what we call the mixed intelligence. It's not artificial intelligence, it's not human intelligence. It's mixed intelligence, and it's a lot more useful than either one of them. A lot of different innovations starting to pump up in Africa really fast. This is IoT grain storage monitor, moisture and, mostly monitor temperature and moisture. If there's any problem with your storage, you get a text message. This is putting the GPS on a tractor and turn this into an Uber for tractors, so the farmer can share the resource. This is a health monitoring for cow. All of this in another different place, it would sound like a huge project. It would sound like $1 million project. But a lot of this project was done with, $10,000, with immediate customer, immediate local applications, and done within a few weeks. It's not just technology products. It's also rethinking about where we are today in terms of when technology items become commodities, the value of branding starting to be huge. So this is Pace headphone. It's a brand started last September in Nairobi, Kenya. Within 6 months, they took a ready-made headset from Shenzhen, put their own logo on it, having designed the whole package by the African designers. And the branding team, everybody is based in Nairobi. In 6 months, they become the hardest headphone brand in Kenya. 2 months ago, the guy wearing their headset is the president of Kenya. This company is heading to about $1 million a year this year. But the most remarkable thing is what they did last month. They signed their first UK distributor. This is actually very interesting. We never thought about this is possible. Something made in China, branded in Africa, and now it's becoming a brand in Europe. And all of this is done in 12 months. So this is one idea we keep trying to get into the head of a lot of new technology entrepreneurs, is stop obsessed about being able to do technology, because technology is commodities. And what do I mean by commodities? Let's use this example. If today I tell you I'm going to open the coffee shops in Shenzhen, and hey, we are in Brazil. You guys know some coffee farmer, right? Now take me to him and let him teach me how to grow a coffee tree so I can grow my own coffee tree in Shenzhen so I can open a coffee shop. Well, that sounds ridiculous, but this is actually what a lot of people are doing with electronics. Remain the things you can already buy on the street of Shenzhen on the cheap. So how do you do this right? Coffee bean is commodity. You can buy from open market to your need, and you don't obsess with how, if you want to open a coffee shop, you are not obsessed with how, if you know how to grow coffee. You're obsessed with what is my coffee shop, who I'm going to serve, who I'm going to go. So as coffee is a commodity from Brazil, mobile phone is a commodity from Shenzhen. And starting to think about it this way is going to help you to understand the possibility of the futures. And this kind of disruption coming from the bottom is not really just mobile phone, just technology. It's not a one-shot incident just happened in Shenzhen. We see this kind of story recurring in China in different places. So this is another story. This is a really cute little small electric vehicle. It's produced in these two small provinces in China. It's originally targeted at a customer like this. Old people, poor old people who still use this as a transportation. It would be nice to have a roof of their head. The group of companies starting 10 years ago making golf cart. They are very good at making golf cart. Now, going from golf car to a more fully covered car, looking like this. And in the process, they realized making electric car is actually very easy. You don't have complex combustion engine, you don't have transmissions. Here's an interesting fact about electric car I learned. You don't need transmissions. The electric motor has so much torque, you don't need transmission for your car. So right now, making an electric car looking like this. The motors, the battery, the steering wheel, done. You have an electric car. And the same system emerged out of China for the same reason. It's been to solve a problem of ignored populations. And so they're starting to modularize everything. So this is a very integrated module with motor, controller, and And now everybody can make their own car, and everybody do. Right now, there are 300 companies in these two provinces producing cars looking like this. And how much is it? $3,000. $3,000 US. And how are they doing? In 2017, the entire world sold 1 million units of EV. That's Tesla, that's everybody combined. That's 1 million units. In 2017, these two provinces, and that's their populations. The population combined about 160 million people. They sold 1.4 million EV. And they are targeted to go to 10 millions by 2020. This is the fastest growing new opportunity. And if you think about this, electric car is going to be center of innovation, navigation, self-driving, everything. And you don't have to do this on a $30,000 car, $50,000 car. $3,000 going to 70 kilometers an hour and have the cruise range of 150 kilometers. And this is to rethinking about now you have access to this car, to these components. And it's an opportunity to rethinking about what mobility looks like, what car industry looks like, what future of city transportation look like. And you can start easy, and this is very attractive. So one thing, the first time I ran into someone from ITS, and we talk about this, and one thing he bring to my attention is this. There's a discussion about discontinue unregistered mobile phone in Brazil. And that's going to put millions of people out of connections. And to think about this is how do you solve the problem? You're solving the problem by thinking about this. This is the distribution of the mobile phone in Brazil. And if you take a look, it's, all the brand already been beaten somewhere else. Moto, I don't believe exists in China anymore. Haven't seen the LG for a long time. Don't even remember Alcatel makes phone. So this is a potent opportunity. A lot of this, they don't make phone for this segment. And right now, you are looking at be able to make a phone at $50. And it's time to rethinking about phone locality, local service, how to put all of them together. And this is not just, this is opportunity which is interesting. I mean, a 200 million people countries is attractive to all kinds of different providers. And this is actually, I mean, if you think about starting a mobile company here is weird. It's the, well, this is all the brand competing here. I was looking them up. So you actually get Indian brand competing here. You get South African brand competing here. And things can shift, things can change overnight. So this is one of the craziest market right now in the past years, this big shift and change. So to come back to think about this is the coming to a makerspace to access to this all the openness. It's not just about create something unique, create something novel. It's also to think about when you have access to all of this resource, what can you do? What's the business opportunity? And I think Rio alone, that's 5 million to 10 million mobile phone. I was really surprised when I first got in, and I was standing outside of the hotel smoking, and I was looking at my phone. And the doorman kept coming to me and say, okay, well, put your phone into your pocket. Otherwise, it's dangerous. And then I realized, well, smartphone is actually not accessible to a huge population here. But it's not by, it can be changed. And changing that is both having good social purpose and very good business. So looking forward from here is also thinking about now everything is open. AI, what does AI really mean? It's not that debate about AI being this end-all replacing all the human. But with all the toolkit you have, AI is just another tool. So let's try not thinking about AI as this end-all huge innovation. And let's have some fun with it.
Alexa, what's the weather?
Currently, in Cambridge, it's 45 degrees with showers. Tonight, you can look for rainy weather with a low of 43 degrees.
And everybody heard about the scary facial recognition in China? Well, the one about state surveillance doesn't work, but this works. The facial recognition toilet paper dispensers. Basically, the Beijing Park restroom have problem with people taking too much toilet paper going home.
设计这个机器，其实还是想，就是大家对现在这种就是浪费厕纸这种行为啊，起到一个制约的作用。如果说这个纸呢，再放在一个公共的一个就是没有任何节制、没有任何就控制的一个设备上，大家无休无止的这样去浪费。
这个一个是低压用纸，不浪费，这个方便不要我车。
So yeah, it's just making AI, making it useful. And really to think about here is as a makerspace, as a place to make people access to open technology. There's actually a lot of interesting things to discuss about AI. About AI is right now still following that Silicon Valley thinking. Things created in Silicon Valley will not change and spread around the world. But when it comes to AI, that's actually a problem. And here is the illustration of the problem.
Siri, do you believe in God?
I eschew theological disquisition.
Siri, do you believe in God?
I would ask that you address your spiritual questions to someone more qualified to comment, ideally, a human.
Siri, do you believe in God?
That's a topic for another day and another assistant.
I'll say. Anyways, that's it for me. Catch you guys later.
So here's the interesting part, is these smart speakers, these dialogue-based, these voice-based interactions, it's no longer culturally neutral. It's no longer objective. It's no longer mechanical. There are actually a lot of cultural context. Just by the 3 answers from Siri, that's a very liberal, atheist, North California, Silicon Valley cultures. If you put a speaker in your household in here, and you're 5 years old, walk up to him and say, okay, well, does God exist? You don't want that answer. You want a straight answer from the priest. Yes, God exists. Here's the glory of God. So that has actually opened up a huge opportunity to take the tool, to take all of this and recustomize, to rethinking about what object of technology mean to our life. And we do have control. We don't have to wait for someone to define it. And with that control, with that realization, it brings a lot of opportunity. And this is what we realize in terms of, we now have a very exciting global maker movement. And now it's take the excitement and they're starting to show result. They're starting to make things useful for people and starting to push social change. So thank you very much for the chance to come here and share with you. And if you want to stay in contact, here's my Twitter and here's my our lab's Twitters. So again, thank you and hope to hear from you soon.